Pablo, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? First one in as always. Mike, good to see you, brother. How you doing? How you been? Of course, how you doing? Good evening. Good evening, Miles and CMF. Jason, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? Good evening, Miles. How you doing? I'm doing great, Callie. Good to see you as well. How you doing? Good evening, Miles and all CMF. JP, good to see you as well, brother. How you doing? How you been? Hello, Miles. T, good to see you as well. How you doing, T? How's things? Trying to pin the live. Pin to your profile. Pin. Hey, Miles, the CMF Comatous, good to see you as well. How you doing, brother? How you been? Okay. By the time everyone tunes in for the first part of the live show, let's do intro, disclaimer, and essentially what we're going to be going through on tonight's live. A lot of things are happening, which essentially we're going to be covering on tonight's live. Some Trump news to go through, some data news, perspective news, partnership news, Ripple news, as always. Welcome to the CMF Live. If you're watching this for the first time ever, the CMF stands for Crypto Miles Family. My name is Miles. You can tune to this live Monday to Friday, 10 p.m. London time onwards, for the most recent news regarding cryptocurrencies, CBDCs, AI, politics, regulations, pretty much vital information for you to know about regarding the world completely transforming into a digital space. We also do this, essentially we do Q&As on this live show as well, which means if you do have any questions, put it down inside the comment section. More than happy to help you out. And the disclaimer of this live, as always, is not financial advice, not political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. And this is episode essentially 393 of the CMF Live, which is incredible. One episode 393 right now. Now, on tonight's live show, we're going to be covering essentially what's happening so far inside the market space. The crypto market space has been reacting quite well. So far, we haven't had any sort of major announcements, but we have had some sort of news to push the market on the right side. Now, before we go through any of that, let's go inside the comment section first, and then we go straight to the first news, which is regarding the S&P 500 and the stock, essentially crypto market space as well. Let's see where we're at inside the comment section. First, we were here. Good evening, Professor Miles and the rest of the CMF family. Good to see you as well, Funky. How you doing? How you been? Good evening, Miles and CMF. Free and forever. Good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? Good day, Miles and CMF. Are you bringing up the crystal ball today and telling us the markets are going up? Am I bringing up the crystal ball? Well, on yesterday's live show, I made the announcements of two outcomes. One outcome was Citi's outcome, which essentially was that it's a buy signal, it's a long signal, and that everybody should be longing the market is what Citi said yesterday. So everybody that did listen to Citi yesterday has essentially ranked in some profits today, because there definitely was a long buy option signal going on. Now, Standard Chartered Bank, on the other hand, the second outcome, which I essentially said yesterday as well, was that we're going to be climbing the ranks, but then we're going to be coming down below 100K for a brief moment, and then go back up, and we'll never touch below 90K again, is what Standard Chartered Bank said, which was the second outcome. So far, Citi's outcome has been playing out since yesterday. So regarding my crystal ball, instead, I'm just sharing the two outcomes that was said yesterday. Is the Market Structure Bill and Clarity Act the same thing? Yes, the Market Structure Bill is technically the Clarity Act, yes. Feels like this bull run is never going to happen, just delays after delays. When it's going to boom, Miles. T, you have to give a little bit of time. As you know, we are still in essentially a government shutdown. We are still having some sort of tensions with the US and China going on, and the Ukraine-Russia war still going as well. There's some few factors that are playing out. However, even those factors are playing out, on the other side of the spectrum, there are discussions being made inside the United States with the House, with the Senate, essentially, with the Democrats, with the Republicans, regarding crypto, essentially, structured bills, with crypto CEOs as well, Ripple CEOs, Coinbase CEO, Kraken CEO, and so on. So even though we have, all of this going on, the China tension with the US and essentially Ukraine war situation still carrying on, the government shutdown situation, there are still conversations being made in higher up places regarding a crypto structured bill. So it's not all doom and gloom. Good evening, Miles and CMF. Good to see you as well. Manny, how you doing? Let's see where we're at. Okay, we're here. Do we need tokenization for XRP to go to 3 to 4 digits? Do we need tokenization for XRP to reach 3 to 4 digits? No. On finance, it could technically achieve that without an issue. The amount of banks essentially just through G Treasury is 800 banks roughly through G Treasury. Hidden Road is about 300 institutions. Just those two together out of the 1,800 NDAs Ripple has. I mean, it's more than enough to push it to those types of levels. So no, we don't need to have tokenization for the XRP ledger just to see 3 to 4 digits along the way. We can achieve it without essentially tokenization, but tokenization is a pure bonus. Tor, good to see you as well. How you doing? Good evening. Manny, good to see you as well. How you doing? Hi, Miles and all CMF. Hope everyone is well. Adi, good to see you as well. How you doing, Adi? How you been? Greetings, Miles and CMF. Lena, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? Evening, Miles and CMF. Joe, good to see you as well. How you doing? How you been? When do you think the Clarity Act will get passed? When do I think the Clarity Act is going to pass? I'll be honest, the government shutdown situation needs to end first. We need the 6 or 5 votes from the Democratic Party to open up the doors. Now, there was a live speech going on, essentially, if I'm not mistaken, from the White House regarding essentially the Democrats still not giving in and still not essentially voting to open the government back up. But that does need to happen first before we get a Clarity Act essentially in, I would say. And that happens within a matter of weeks, the Clarity Act will pass. The good thing is, they're not waiting for the government shutdown situation to end and then discuss the Clarity Act to pass it. They're actually discussing the Clarity Act as a government shutdown is still going on, which is a good sign, which means they're not wasting time once the government opens. Evening all. Susie, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Okay, let's go through the first news on tonight's live. Before we go through the first news, just want to say thank you so much to everybody from the CMF who has already essentially like this live show, essentially retweet this live show. Thank you so much, CMF members, for everyone who smashed the retweet button, smashed the like button on X. If you're watching this on X, if you're watching this on YouTube, thanks so much to everyone who's also liked the live as well. If you have a CMF members, drop a quick like and a retweet on X. If you're watching on X, and if you're watching on YouTube, just drop a like. And if you want, drop a comment outside the live as well. Now, the S&P 500, the crypto market space, it's all looking a bit stable now. The S&P 500 gains, essentially crypto remains stable, analysts weigh in. The S&P 500 closed higher essentially today, recoupling previous losses and signaling a renowned investor confidence in New York Stock Exchange. Market dynamics essentially hint at the potential risk shifts impacting essentially cryptocurrency sentiments through essentially a stable on-chain data that does suggest no immediate effects on digital assets so far. The S&P 500 closed higher, much more higher than essentially anticipated, essentially, recovering losses from the previous sessions. The index gain came aimed at a $1 billion convertible note, offering essentially by the ASAT. Space Mobile reflecting a positive market sentiment going on. Tech stocks are not doing too bad, even though Tesla's Q3 reports came out. It's still not doing bad in terms of their stocks. Key financial players, including Jim Cramer, essentially provide analysis on today's market activity, highlighting the speculative equities actions by essentially AST, Space Mobile, and Grail are shaping the current market dynamics right now. In general, tech stocks are doing quite well, not perfect, but they're doing quite well. Sure enough, ASAT, essentially, Space Mobile just offered $1 billion in convertible notes and 2 million shares at 78, essentially, and a change, said Jim Cramer in his recent, essentially, speech on CNBC. Now, equity gains and their effects on major cryptocurrencies today, for example, actions in equity markets may influence investor sentiments towards major cryptocurrencies. Also, while no direct changes in these essentially assets were observed, shifts in risk appetite are being closely monitored right now. Historical data does suggest that large essentially equity rails may lead to increased liquidity in risk assets, for example, cryptocurrencies. If the stock market is doing better now, tech stocks are doing better now, crypto should be doing better as well, because Bitcoin does tend to sometimes follow tech stocks, or in most cases follow tech stocks compared to following gold. Jim Cramer's essentially .com era parallel and crypto implementations. Jim Cramer's analogy to end of the .com era highlights potential essentially liquidity risks similar to past cycles. Key tokens like Ethereum, essentially, and Bitcoin have seen repricing in previous S&P 500 shifts, though today's context appears much more stable. Market analysis highlight that the future market trends could align with past patterns, predicting possible essentially impacts on crypto essentially markets. Significant moves in the S&P 500 often ripple through the broader risk assets affecting crypto essentially strategies. The crypto markets were actually doing quite well today. Bitcoin was doing very well for itself. BNB was doing well for itself due to essentially CZ getting pardoned by Trump, which should have happened, in my opinion. As I previously said, and I'll stand by it, CZ is an incredible, intelligent person. He didn't do anything wrong inside the crypto space. It's just that the Biden administration needed somebody to blame for the crypto space at that particular moment in time, and they chose CZ as an easy target to squeeze money out of Binance. Let's just be honest with ourselves. So it's great to see essentially CZ has been pardoned by Trump. On the other hand, Sam Bankman-Fried should not be pardoned in any sort of way because that guy actually misused people's funds. That's a different scenario to CZ. Also, regarding the stock markets, honestly, so far tech stocks have been doing pretty damn well, which is brilliant to watch because that means Bitcoin is going to be doing well for itself as well. Now, moving on from that and going into the US national essentially debt, which has just hit a new target of $38 trillion. So here it is. The United States national debt has climbed to an unprecedented level now of $38 trillion as of essentially October 2025, sparking concerns among economic stakeholders and financial markets. This rapid debt increase may significantly influence risk assets. So the US national debt rises. Crypto seems more appealing now because traditional finance is not doing too well, which means the alternative market space should be doing well, which is hence why crypto is doing well. Now, this rapid debt increase may significantly influence risk assets with potential impacts observed in cryptocurrency markets. The US national debt has escalated to historical levels of $38 trillion, influenced by ongoing policy changes and economic essentially measures acknowledged by the financial authorities. Scott Benson, the Treasury Secretary, confirmed efforts in deficit reductions, achieving the lowest levels since 2019. Scott Benson also noted that despite record debt deficit reduction measures are helping keep essentially the physical trajectory more sustainable, with the essential deficit from April to September totaling essentially $468 billion, the lowest since 2019. Immediate effects include heightened interest obligations standing at a $1.21 trillion annually. This represents 17% of the federal essentially spending, a notable increase essentially reflecting heightened monetary conditions. The debt also surge directly affects government bonds and global risks, essentially risk assets. Historically, major cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum have considered as alternative hedges against essentially rising sovereign debt concerns, or the essentially top 10 to top 20 cryptocurrencies, to be more fairly honest. Historical precedents does show capital essentially shifts towards crypto aimed essentially debt spikes, as seen during essentially the COVID-19 period that we had. Current dynamics might further encourage digital asset interest among investors, and potential also outcomes includes increased cryptocurrency and DeFi protocol demands driven by essentially physical instability. Institutions may continue to roll shifts also with data and trends suggesting a vital essentially place for digital currencies in current markets. So the US essentially debt reaching new heights, historical new heights, $38 trillion and still climbing. That has actually helped cryptocurrencies quite a bit, to be fairly honest. When the traditional market space does tend to fail, riskier assets, alternative assets, do seem like the better spot, essentially the better market to be entering into. Obviously, gold is also always seen as that safe haven, and gold is starting to slowly, very minimally rise back up again. However, crypto did do a massive rise today, to be fairly honest. Now, regarding gold, gold's $2.1 trillion wipeout that happened revives the digital asset space. So there's a claim going on right now inside the financial sector that the money that exited gold is going to be re-entering and has started to re-enter the crypto space. After a powerful multi-month rally, gold crashed essentially, as we all saw on October 21st. It was the biggest gold price drop essentially in more than a decade, falling from essentially $4,330 to $430 in just a few hours. Gold's market cap dropped by $2.1 trillion essentially dollars in a single day, as this essentially amount is over half of the total essentially crypto market caps. It raises the question of whether digital gold is more reliable long-term in terms of investments than physical gold. Gold essentially is having an immune 2025. Even now, after historical downturns, its value is still up 55% compared to 2024 year-end price. That's more than essentially in the years of the 9/11 attacks, the 2008 financial crisis, or the COVID-19 shutdown scenarios. Some analysts warn that investors that the essentially gold price had overheated. For instance, a few days before the crash, in response to Benzinga's essentially question, the CEO of Coin Bureau, essentially Nick, said that gold might take a downturn. He said also that the current gold rush is a monumental essentially trade moment, and essentially momentum trades have a tendency to fizzle out, which is exactly what essentially happened. Several analysts were projecting the continuation of the uptrend. Goldman Sachs, for example, saw gold reaching $4,900 per ounce by December 2026, while UBS essentially Bank provided a more bullish prediction of $4,700 in Q1 of 2026. And Bloomberg City's several essentially strategies included Charlie essentially as saying that in the coming weeks, the price may consider it to essentially $4,000 levels. Banks will need gold to keep diversifying away from the US dollars, but at the current levels, there is no rush to position for that in moment in time. Donald Trump's essentially Monday comments on the planned and trade negotiations with China, which we talked about as well, didn't go so well, but it went essentially well for gold. Both Bitcoin and gold are viewed as debasement trade assets. Debasement trade assets refers to the avoidance of investments in sovereign debt or essentially fiat currencies, as their value is too dependent on the actions of the financial and political institutions. Despite the common grounds, there is some essentially mutual ribboning and banter between gold bugs and Bitcoiners. For example, for instance, experienced stockbroker Peter is a prominent Bitcoin critic and advocating for gold still till this day. Gold is the biggest threat to Bitcoin, he said. That's why the entire crypto industry is now attacking it. I just want to make one thing very, very clear for Peter. It's not the entire crypto industry that's threatening gold in any sort of a way. And gold is a superb asset, no doubt about it. And nobody can say anything otherwise. Gold is a superb asset. It's always, essentially, it has always held its own ground, to be fairly honest. It's just Bitcoiners or Bitcoin maxis that not hate, but no. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, but it is just the Bitcoin maxis that do go against gold and say Bitcoin is the better asset or the better alternative to gold as a digital gold. Just want to point that out. It's not the entire crypto industry. You don't see XRP people or XLM people or HBAR people, Solana people, or so on comparing themselves to gold and saying we are digital gold. It's just Bitcoiners and Bitcoin maxis. It's not the entire crypto industry. Strategy, essentially Michael Saylor, ARK Invest, and Chris, essentially Gemini's Whitman brothers, and Mark Cuban were saying that Bitcoin is better than gold. They are all pretty much on the side of Bitcoin maxis. They cite essentially Bitcoin's quicker price appreciation, ease of management, and the near impossibility of a scenario in which its total supply gets higher. The latter is not the case for gold, as new sources of gold may be found off Earth. Scientists also experimented with producing gold in a lab. If scientists are able to produce gold in a lab, then it is going to impact the price of gold, which should impact the crypto market space in a positive note. However, while the results are not impressive yet, multi-million-dollar grants and investment power scientists to continue a way to create gold. So if you didn't know, now you know. Scientists have essentially received multi-million-dollar grants to create gold in a lab. And if scientists are able to create gold in a lab, then it is definitely going to reduce the valuation of gold if they could just produce it like that, rather than finding these rare earth essential materials and so on. So that's an impressive one. But putting all that to one side, as I said, essentially, Peter, it's not the entire crypto space that compares themselves to gold. It's just Bitcoiners. Now, and also, Peter did essentially say he wants to debate CZ on what's better, digital gold or gold. Peter being on the side of gold, CZ being on the side of digital gold. I think personally, Peter chose a bad candidate to go up against because CZ, in my opinion, is incredibly intelligent. It's going to be, even though gold is a much more far superior asset, unless they are able to produce gold in a lab, bad choice of candidate because CZ is probably going to crush him in anything in terms of essentially when it comes to intelligence of crypto space. Now, moving on from that to the Senate, to the crypto regulations, and one of the most important things for the entire crypto space so we can all decouple and go into utility. I think I speak for everyone inside the crypto space when I say these words. Everybody is tired of following Bitcoin's footsteps, and we just want utility. We've had enough of buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell, long, short. We want utility. And regulations is going to be giving us that. So far, during this government shutdown, there's been discussions with crypto CEOs and Republicans, crypto CEOs and Democrats, crypto CEOs and the Fed, crypto CEOs and the Senate and the House. And we have another update on that matter so far. Bipartisan push for cryptocurrency legislations gains momentum in the US Senate. White House AI and essentially crypto CEOs David Sachs engaged in discussions with Senate members, aiming for a bipartisan backing for cryptocurrency legislations on Capitol Hill. Passage of this legislation could transform the US markets by providing regulatory clarity and reinforcing the American Stablecoin Innovation Genius Act framework. David Sachs, in his role as White House AI and crypto Caesar, spearheaded these discussions with key Democratic members of the US Senate, which we talked about yesterday, advocating for bipartisan approach to cryptocurrency legislations. David Sachs also emphasized that the potential for bipartisan support to fortify the cryptocurrency market structures, building upon the success of the American Stablecoin Innovation Genius Act signed by President Trump. Such interactions indicate a positive shift towards regulatory clarity. The prescribed legislation anchored in bipartisan collaboration seeks to enhance the operational frameworks for cryptocurrencies, potentially essentially attracting more institutional participation. The Genius Act already provides legal clarity for stablecoins underpinning the US dollar dominance in digital asset liquidity. Market reactions have been largely positive, with stakeholders welcoming the collaborative efforts. David Sachs also noted, "I believe we are fully capable of passing cryptocurrency market structure legislations with bipartisan support," which is brilliant, which is everything we want to hear. The Democrats, the Republicans, and everybody else inside the government is giving crypto space a green light for a Clarity Act straight after a government shutdown essentially ends, or even during a government shutdown if it's possible. Recent regulatory efforts in the US are meant to streamline cryptocurrency frameworks, ensuring growth. And historical trends do suggest that such bipartisan actions can attract positive market sentiments and long-term stability. And it definitely will. Utility is the only thing missing from the crypto space. And once that applies to the crypto space, the sky's the limit for some crypto projects, to be fairly honest, in their own fields. So, for example, XRP, XLM, XDC would be in the financial sectors, and essentially Ethereum and so on would be in the smart contract sectors, and some projects will be doing very well in the Web3 section. Some projects will be doing very well in tokenization or essentially AI and gaming and so on. Now, David Sachs remarked is essentially, it is just very important that America continues to be the dominant power in AI, also highlighting the intersection of cryptocurrency and AI, maintaining the US leadership. So for anybody that was worried that everything is taking so much time and things aren't moving, things don't look too good, they do. It's just you're seeing the prices on charts and thinking nothing's happening so far. But if you look at essentially beyond the charts and you look at what's happening actually inside the crypto sector, which is all the debates that are being going on right now during this government shutdown to pass a crypto legislation that's going to bring utility, that is massive. Because they're not waiting for the government shutdown to end to then have a discussion and waste more of our time. They're actually doing all their discussions now in a government shutdown. So when we do open up, it's green light. Now, moving on from that to Fidelity. But before we talk about Fidelity, let's go inside the comment section first. As I said previously, this is live, which means, as always, if you do have any questions or statements, put it down inside the comment section. More than happy to help you out. So let's see what's happening inside the comment section first, and then we go straight into the next news, which is regarding Fidelity and Solana. Let's see what's happening. We were here, I think, yeah. BTC has hit its all-time high, so has Ethereum. So now the next phase will be altcoins, but only coins with utility according to influencers. Well, we do need to have regulations for that to be on the side of yes. But in general, top 10, top 20, top 30, and top 50 will do well for themselves. Top 100 could even do well for themselves. We get regulations, we get actual utility, then that's a different story. It's only projects that have utility, not just have utility, but have contracts in place, have essentially licensings in place on a global scale. Those will be the ones essentially scaling the most on the uptrend. Hi, Miles. Nia, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Miles and CMF, let's go. Davey, good to see you. How you doing? Hello, Miles and CMF. Call Trump, tell him to approve all XRP ETFs. Lol. Anti-Gravity Act bill. Let's go big. Like, share, and comment, please. Facts. Definitely, CMF members. If you haven't already liked or essentially retweeted this live and you're watching this on X, please like and please retweet this live as well. Hi, oh well, regarding the gold story, yep. If they're going to essentially build, the idea of scientists being able to create gold in a lab is just crazy. And if it is possible, that's beyond crazy. Hi, Miles and CMF. Stormy, good to see you. How you doing? And Davey, thank you so much for the $20 donation. Absolutely amazing. Thanks for helping the people. Let's go, Davey. Thanks so much for $20 donation. Absolutely amazing. Thank you. Now, Fidelity. Fidelity launches a Solana, in other words, cryptocurrency offering for clients. Fidelity's recent move to include Solana on its trading platform marks a significant step towards mainstream acceptance of cryptocurrencies. As one of the largest financial service providers, Fidelity supports for Sol highlights growing institutional interest in the blockchain ecosystem and the increasing integration of digital assets into traditional finance. This development signals a maturing market and essentially also underscores Solana's ambitions to become a key player in global internet capital markets. Fidelity, a major name inside the global financial services industry, announcing essentially Solana is quite a big deal for Solana. Anybody that is holding Solana, to be fairly honest. This move comes across Fidelity's crypto essentially accounts, the IRA's wealth management and digital assets illustrates a strict shift in that sense, as traditional finance essentially provides increasingly essentially recognizing the importance of digital assets and a diversified portfolio. A Fidelity spokesperson also emphasized that this step reaffirms their long-standing commitments to building a robust infrastructure and an educational resources for cryptocurrencies similar to those that support for conventional asset classes. The addition of Solana is a continuation essentially of Fidelity's decade-plus efforts to develop the infrastructure products and educational resources for digital assets, consistent with the solutions we provide for traditional asset classes. The inclusion of Solana reinforces the perception of that cryptocurrencies are evolving into a much more mature market space than what they were before, and tradable assets. With a market capitalization exceeding $104 billion, Solana ranks as the sixth largest cryptocurrency, according to CMC. This developers see the network progressing towards becoming the home of the internet capital markets, aiming to facilitate essentially the trading and tokenization of a broad area of real-world assets, including stocks, stablecoins, and essentially tokenization. This is quite a big news essentially for Solana. Well done to Solana. But there are also other crypto projects involved with Fidelity as well. They've just decided to add Solana now. And regarding the other projects, is all essentially the ETF Fidelity's, essentially all the ETFs that Fidelity has filed, in like the XRP ETF and even Solana ETFs, and if I'm not missing a few other ones as well. Now, moving on from that to Trump and China, which is still big news because they do impact the crypto markets and the stock market, to be fairly honest. And that it seems like it's back on regarding Trump meeting Xi Jinping at the event. So on yesterday's live show, we talked about how someone from the White House said it might not even happen with Trump meeting Xi Jinping. Now it seems like it's back again. Trump and essentially Xi Jinping to meet at APEC Summit, implications for the crypto market. Donald Trump and Xi Jinping are essentially set to meet on October 30th, 2025, during the APEC Summit in Boston, essentially South Korea, potentially impacting global economics and trade relations. Potentially impacting, I'm not really sure, impacting for sure. This meeting could trigger volatility in cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum, reflecting possible shifts in US and China trade policies and investor sentiments. Donald Trump and Xi Jinping are slated to meet at this event essentially, and this high-profile meeting between Trump and Xi Jinping follows years of fluctuating essentially US-China relations marked by trade and technology disputes. Their engagement also reflects ongoing efforts to stabilize and influence global trade dynamics. The financial community essentially anticipates potential volatility in the crypto markets due to past impacts of the US-China dialogues. Historically, meetings of this nature have led to shifts in risk sentiments. Also, experts suggest that Bitcoin and Ethereum may experience price fluctuations during this essentially event, during this meeting between Trump and Xi Jinping. Past trends indicate significant essentially crypto market volatility surrounding key global events involving these two major economies. in previous also Trump and Xi Jinping summits have triggered a tremendous amount of market volatility. I mean, we saw one of the biggest crashes inside the crypto space to ever be seen before. According also to analyst perspectives, historical data suggests that US and China meetings typically correspond with volatile movements, but then the markets will restore themselves. The meeting will take place in South Korean city of Busan on the sidelines of the Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit, the White House spokesperson said. So yesterday, Trump said he's meeting Xi Jinping, and then somebody from the White House said it might not happen. Today, a White House spokesperson came out and said it's happening. Trump and Xi Jinping are going to be meeting each other in South Korea. Once that meeting happens, if it is good news, we are all in the clear. The crypto markets will restore themselves, and next should be the government opening back up, and everything will be smooth sailing from then on. Now, moving on from Trump and Xi Jinping to the U.S. jobless claims. Today we had some CPI data reports come out, and the U.S. jobless claims delay disrupting crypto financial markets. It did disrupt it for a slight. Within this 30 to 45 minutes, the crypto market space was in limbo, and then it started to pick back up. But here is essentially what's happened regarding that report. The U.S. initial essentially jobless claims reports released expected essentially today faced some sort of delays due to the government shutdown, disrupting data flows and critical for economic analysis, which weighed in on the crypto market space being at limbo. Market uncertainty rise during that moment in time, affecting traders and crypto sentiments as alternative data sources became relied upon for economic insights during the data essentially blackouts. And according to CMC, Bitcoin currently trades at around $110,000, but above now. This was the moment time the article was written, with essentially a market cap of $2.21 trillion. It remains a dominant force, holding 59.28% of the market dominance. In the last 24 hours, its trading volume reached $60.90 billion, although this marks essentially a 30.69% decline. The circular supply still stands around 19.9 million, essentially nearing its maximum of 21 million essentially coins. Now, CoinCurve essentially also researchers suggested increased market optimism may also lead to volatility as traders adjust positions without clear macroeconomic data. Historical trends do show that data uncertainties can drive flight to safety behaviors, affecting both traditional and digital asset market spaces. Also, look, to be fairly honest, we didn't get the data coming out from where we usually get it up because of this government shutdown situation. They couldn't give us accurate data. However, the data that we did get didn't impact the crypto market space at a tremendous scale. It impacted for about 30-45 minutes. The market was at limbo, but it started picking back up again. Once the government shutdown situation ends, we will get the actual CPI rate and data coming out regarding essentially the mortgage rates, the jobless rates, and so on. And we'll have a much more better idea of the market space. But for the data that we received today, it wasn't highly bad for the crypto space, which is great to see because we are in so many scenarios going on right now. The last thing we needed was bad reports coming out. Now, moving on from essentially the CPI data reports that came out today from what we could have to Coinbase. Coinbase is or has introduced something quite interesting, and it also goes back to an interview that happened a while ago. A while ago, there was an interview on TED Talk where they talked about how AI needs crypto to survive. And what they meant at that TED Talk was essentially that AI is not able to do transactions in a traditional sense. However, with cryptocurrencies, AI is able to do essentially transactions and have its own wallets and so on. So AI agents can be doing all the spending. Well, Coinbase is about to make that a reality, and that's the reason why I'm sharing you this now. Coinbase launches today Payments MCP to enable AI agents to transact on chain. AI agents are going to be having their own crypto wallets. Coinbase has introduced Payments MCP Module Context Protocol, essentially a new developer tool that allows artificial intelligence agents to transact directly on chain using crypto wallets and stablecoins, which is, crazy. The launch announced essentially on October 23rd today signals Coinbase's next major step in fusing AI technology with decentralized finance. Payments MCP connects large language models to crypto payments without requiring API keys or complex setups. Supported AI agents, including Cloud, Gemini, Codex, and Cherry Studio so far, can now execute blockchain actions like wallet creation, stablecoin transfers, and data purchases through natural language, essentially commands. According to Coinbase, this protocol allows AI systems to operate autonomously in the global economy, where AI is able to purchase things now. By handling transactions, paying for commutes, and managing digital, essentially, assets. Users can create wallets using just an email address, set spending limits for AI agents, and monitor transactions through a local desktop interference for improved security. The introduction, essentially, of this payments MCP also integrates with the X402, a payment, essentially, framework Coinbase co-developed with Cloudflare, advancing what the company calls energetic commerce, where intelligent systems are not just, essentially, a conscience on the computer, but also financially active participants in society. The introduction of payments MCP aligns with Coinbase's 2025 strategy to emerge AI and crypto ecosystems. It builds on recent efforts like USDC lending, the Google Coinbase stablecoin protocol, and the base layer 2 integrations, all aimed at expanding the company's developer and payment infrastructure. Coinbase argues that crypto rails and stablecoins provide the ideal foundation for AI transactions due to their speed. And the frictionless essentially design also. With the payments MCP, the exchange aims to establish its base network and developer tools as the core framework for the next generation of automated digital commerce. Looking ahead, Coinbase plans to extend the protocol's capabilities by supporting additional, essentially, AI models and tools, strengthening the bridge between AI automation and real-world finance. So, we're now creeping up onto a world where AI is able to make payments and be an active member of society. Interesting enough, in a year or 2 years. So it's estimated 2026 or 2027 is going to be one particular robotics company has said that their robots for home use or office use, just like what Elon Musk is trying to build, are going to be available for purchase in 2026 and 2027, depending on different jurisdictions. And also now, AI, robots, and so on are now going to be able to make purchases, create their own wallets, and become a member of society. It's almost like we're living in a sci-fi film. The world is moving at a much more rapid pace than it ever was before, to be fairly honest. Good evening, Miles and CMF. Bull XRP, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? AI would also be able to protect its own wallet from hackers and maybe even turn around and end up hacking them back. It's a good point, Kerry. And also on that point, there was a study test done. Last year, there was a study test done regarding an AI, essentially, firm who gave this AI robot, if I wasn't mistaken, it was the beginning of this year or last year. They gave this AI, essentially, $30,000. And they said, if anybody's able to make the AI give up the money, then they essentially will win the money. And if they're not, then essentially AI would be a good option to safeguard your money. At the end, the AI did end up giving up the money, to be fairly honest. So that test essentially failed, and AI wasn't able to safeguard the $30,000, and whoever won it for themselves. But hopefully we've come a long way since AI getting compromised with $30,000. Now, Tucker Carlson is what we're going to talk about next on tonight's live. The age-old question inside the crypto space: who created Bitcoin? We've had podcasts, essentially, of people suggesting who created Bitcoin. We've had Netflix documentaries of who could have possibly created Bitcoin. And the oldest outcome on the book, CIA created Bitcoin. Well, Tucker Carlson has come out, essentially, and resurfaced the oldest outcome, which is the CIA was the one behind Bitcoin, and still is. So, and Tucker Carlson did not receive baptism support from the crypto space in any sort of a way. Bitcoin maxis hate Tucker Carlson for saying this now. Tucker Carlson faces backlash from essentially Bitcoin enthusiasts for CIA Satoshi Nakamoto connection claims. American conservative, essentially commentator Tucker Carlson has met with considerable criticism after suggesting that the persona of creator of Bitcoin, Satoshi Nakamoto, may have ties to the Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA. Bitcoin supporters and enthusiasts were quick to voice their displeasure, essentially, with Tucker Carlson. The true identity of Satoshi Nakamoto remains essentially, sorry about that. The true identity of Satoshi Nakamoto remains a mystery. Various entities have been suggested as the possible creator essentially of Bitcoin, but no individual or group has been definitely confirmed. Tucker Carlson comments were made at a recent Turning Point USA event, where essentially he voiced a long-standing conspiracy theory inside the crypto world. He suggested that Nakamoto might be linked to the US intelligence agencies, and that Bitcoin could become a scam run by a coalition of financial beneficiaries. The unknown identity of Satoshi Nakamoto has deteriorated Carlson from investing in Bitcoin in general. He expressed his reservations about investing in something whose founder remains anonymous and holds billions of dollars in unused Bitcoin. Yes, it's always raised questions, and I've always said this as well. The idea that, it's an unknown founder, it could be a group, it could be a government agency, it could be whoever. The idea that he holds a tremendous amount of Bitcoin and one day possibly can dump it, and depending on who's holding it, they will take a massive L. And if it is countries that are holding it, then their country economy could be completely impacted quite badly, depending on, again, how much they're holding in terms of Bitcoin, or how much of their essentially assets they sold to acquire Bitcoin as their newest assets for their own jurisdictions. So yes, it is obviously a scary thought that one day whoever did create Bitcoin does come out and drop their entire bag on the market space at a particular time and date where certain countries might be holding a tremendous amount, and it could definitely impact their economies. People could lose their homes, banks could collapse, some governments can also collapse. Again, it depends on how much they're holding or if they sold other assets to acquire it. There is always that fear on the side of Bitcoin. If anybody says that fear doesn't essentially exist, is just talking nonsense, because it does. And also, I've said this a long time ago. Nothing, and I mean nothing, in this world happens by accident. The bigger things that happen in this world are all coordinated to happen. 2008, biggest market crash the world's ever seen from the banking crisis, and then 2009, Bitcoin comes trotting along. That's not essentially a coincidence in any sort of way. That's a coordinated move. Just to give you a perspective, the idea of blockchain payments and digital payments was discussed 1998, and it was called eCash Money 1 and eCash Money 2 by the World Bank. 1998 is when they were discussing digital payments in a digital world. E-Money 1, E-Money 2 was the basic ideas of it. 1998. Nothing in this world happens by accident. So the idea that Bitcoin might be created by an agency or a government is incredibly highly possible. Or in my words, it definitely is. There's no way in hell that Bitcoin was created by one man, a mysterious man who nobody knows who he is. It's just, that doesn't happen in this world. We live in a world where everything is coordinated, and the next 100 steps we're going to be taking have been coordinated 100 years ago, to be pretty much honest with you. So, on the side of, is Tucker Carlson right? Up to a certain extent, yes, he is. To conclude his remarks, Tucker Carlson stated his preference for investing in gold, which has recently solidified its position as the world's top reserve essentially asset in global economic uncertainties. Many Bitcoin enthusiasts have contended to Tucker Carlson's comments, emphasizing that Bitcoin's open source and trustless nature makes the identity of the creator irrelevant. Strike CEO Jack also suggested that the Carlson lacks understanding about Bitcoin. All Tucker Carlson did was state the obvious. Mysterious founder holds a tremendous amount of Bitcoin, could dump it at any given time. I'll give you an example. Today, a wallet that hasn't been touched for 14 years since the Bitcoin Satoshi Nakamoto eras turned back on today and transferred worth of up to $443 million worth of Bitcoin. So the idea that one day the number one essentially wallet that does belong to the founder of Bitcoin, or founders of Bitcoin, decides to turn on one day and dump, highly possible. And that is a concern. And that's all he's pointing out. But the Bitcoin maxis don't like hearing that. Now, moving on from essentially the who created Bitcoin, CIA or not, to Turkey. Turkey has climbed the ranks. You know, Chainalysis does a report every 6 months, every month, every year of which country has climbed the most inside the crypto sector in terms of regulations or the amount of volume they bring to the table. And Turkey's been climbing the ranks quite rapidly. And it has something obviously to do with Turkey's economy in itself, where their own currency is abysmal. It's not worth anything. In fact, people could just use it as toilet paper money if they wanted to in Turkey, regarding the Turkish lira. The data shows that Turkey essentially recorded nearly $200 billion in annual crypto trading volume. Turkey, just by itself, $200 billion annually just in trading, 4 times higher than the United Arab Emirates, which is crazy because Dubai is known as the hotspot when it comes to cryptocurrencies as well, which ranked second essentially with $53 billion. Dubai ranks in $53 billion. Turkey is now ranking in $200 billion annually for the crypto space. Despite this impressive figure, Chainalysis noted that Turkey's crypto activity is largely speculative, fueled by altcoin trading rather than genuine adoption for payments or decentralized applications. The report described the country's crypto ecosystem as one dominated by short-term trading and institutional players rather than retail users. Chainalysis data also revealed that Turkey's essentially surge in activity coincides with a dramatic rise in altcoin speculation. Daily altcoin trading values climbed from about essentially $50 million at the end of 2024 to roughly $240 million by mid-2025. Meanwhile, stablecoin activity, previously cornerstone of Turkey's crypto markets, dropped sharply from around $200 million to just $70 million during the same periods. Analysts attributed this transition to worsening economic conditions, including inflation, devaluation of the Turkish lira, which have pushed investors to seek higher returns through volatile, essentially altcoin trading activities. Chainalysis described this as yield-seeking behavior among market participants attempting to offset losses from their currency depreciation. Another notable shift is the growing influence of institutional investors in Turkey's crypto ecosystem. The report also found that large-scale transactions now make up the majority of trading activity, while retail participation has fallen significantly. Chainalysis also suggested that the ongoing economic strain has made it harder for average citizens to engage with crypto markets at previous levels. This is great to see. And I'll explain why. Because even though bad for the Turkish people that their currency is pretty much worthless, good that the Turkish people are actually seeing cryptocurrency as an alternative, because they could all shift over to gold and silver to be on the safe side. But for the Turkish citizens to be seeing cryptocurrency as an alternative market space, this is great, because Turkey is not the only country that has a very poor currency. Iran has a very poor currency as well. A few Latin American countries have very poor currencies. In fact, one Latin American country already has been bailed out by the United States, to be fairly honest. And it is a crypto country as well in the Latin American sector. So Turkey is not the only one that has a very, very bad currency, poor currency. There's a lot of countries around the world that their currencies are pretty much worthless. And if all those citizens start running towards the crypto sector, it provides more utility, it provides essentially more liquidity for the crypto sector, which is brilliant to see. Because again, those people could run towards gold and silver, the traditional safe haven assets, but they're running towards the crypto sector, which is brilliant to watch. Now, moving on from Turkey to Switzerland. A Swiss crypto bank is what we're going to talk about next. But before we do that, let's go to the comment section first. As I said previously, this is live, which means if you do have any questions or comments, put it down in the comment section. More than happy to help you out. So let's see what's happening inside the comment section, and then we go straight into the Swiss bank news. Good evening, Miles and CMF. Bullets up. Good to see you. How you doing? AI will also protect its own wallet. Right. I don't want. Okay, we're here. Coinbase's AI is like bots doing transactions. Pretty much, yes. Coinbase's AI is like bots doing transactions, but it's also like the robots that are going to be coming in 2026 to 2027. And one particular company called Robo1 or Robotics One is going to be releasing its robots And in their own words, everybody's going to be owning a household robot, in their own company words. By 2030 or 2035, everybody should be owning one household robot at least. It's going to look like iRobot. If anybody's ever seen a film with Will Smith, iRobot, it pretty much is where we're heading towards. BTC maxis are pissed. Yep, pretty much. While Turkey essentially must have crypto regulations, go Turkey. Let's go. Shelly, morning, Miles and CMF. Good to see you as well, Shelly. How you doing? Morning. Now, Swiss bank. The Swiss crypto bank, Animi, taps Tokeny to build a compliant bridge for asset tokenization. So, the partnership combines Amini Bank, a Swiss regulated custody, with Tokeny's blockchain infrastructure to ease tokenization for financial innovations. Under the arrangements, Animi, formerly known as essentially Cyberbank, will handle the banking, custody, and regulatory oversight for traditional assets, while Tokeny will provide the technology for turning those assets into tokens. The setup enables clients to transfer funds seamlessly between traditional accounts and blockchain-based systems as well. Tokeny platform, built on the ERC essentially 3643 standard, adds a compliance layer that allows only authorized investors to hold or trade tokenized assets. Together, Animi and Tokeny say their collaboration will reduce the time to market for tokenized instruments from months to weeks, laying in the groundwork for a more connected and regulated on-chain financial system. This is brilliant to watch. Honestly, more banks getting involved inside the crypto space adds to more liquidity inside the crypto space over time, which also, when we go into utility, will be even beyond that, which honestly is brilliant to watch. However, this bank does have one unique partner, which is Tether. Tether is one of the partners of this bank, is funding this bank also to push them towards tokenizations so that USDT, or Tether in other words, can squeeze itself through in that sector for a regulated bank. Now, moving on from the Swiss bank that decided to join the crypto space to Google and quantum computing, which again is a very sore subject for Bitcoin maxis. Google claims quantum computing breakthrough. Google has just taken it a step further with their Willow chip, which is Google's quantum computing chip, essentially, in a sense. Google said it has achieved a quantum advantage today with its Willow chip, complementing a calculation that would take classical supercomputers thousands of times longer. Google said it had achieved a verifiable quantum advantage with its Willow chip, a calculation that would take the classical computers at a much more longer length. Google was able to do it, we could pretty much say, in milliseconds. The report's breakthrough may reignite a debate inside the cryptocurrency sector. And the debate inside the cryptocurrency sector has always been that quantum computing is able to essentially compromise Bitcoin's chain, and people essentially holding Bitcoin in wallets, especially doormat wallets. Researchers say the essentially achievements moves quantum computing closer to practical applications now, such as the Hamilton learning, essentially where quantum machines could help model complex molecule structures beyond the reach of today's tools. For the crypto world, the breakthrough of Google today is noteworthy, but not alarming, apparently. While quantum computing could one day challenge Bitcoin's cryptographic foundations, most experts say the reality remains far off. The experts they're suggesting say this are all Bitcoin maxis. For example, one Bitcoin maxi said, "There is no evidence today that any computer, even classified one, can break modern cryptography," which is true. No computer today can break Bitcoin's essentially cryptography. However, with the power of quantum computing, that's up for grabs. Now, he also told Cointelegraph in a recent interview, we're at least 10 years away from that. Google parent company, essentially Alphabet Google, shares enjoyed a 1.5% bump also from the Willow chip, taking it a step further. And they're not the only ones obviously trying to achieve quantum computing. As I said previously, the EU is working on their own type of ideas and chips regarding quantum computing. So is the UK, so is Canada, so is Australia, so is Japan, so is Hong Kong, so is China, so is Russia. Pretty much the entire world is very essentially into the idea of quantum computing. And it can be threatening towards Bitcoin. compared to any other blockchain pretty much out there. Now, moving on from the biggest fear from Bitcoin for Bitcoin maxis, even you could say bigger than the idea of who's behind Bitcoin, because who's behind Bitcoin, yes, it's going to be a tremendous negative news for Bitcoin when it does come out of who's really behind it. But a bigger essentially news on that is going to be that Bitcoin's chain could be broken. That will, pretty much destroy the idea of Bitcoin. The foundation of Bitcoin will be destroyed if quantum computing is able to achieve that. Now, moving on from that, Pave Bank is what we're going to talk about next on tonight's live. Pave Bank raises $39 million, led by Akul and Tether, to expand programmable banking. Tether is trying its best to essentially push itself inside the banking sector as much as it can. It didn't do too well inside the United States market space, but it is doing better outside the market space. Fintech Pave Bank has raised $39 million in a Series A funding round led by venture capital firm essentially ASOL. The company offers programmable banking solutions for businesses combining crypto and fiat services also. The round included essentially participation from Tether's Investments, Wintermute, Quant Capital, Helios Digital Ventures, YOLO Investments, Kaza Capital, Financial Technology, and GC&H Investments, bringing the company's total funding to about $45 million, according to the Economic Times. Founded in 2023 by fintech essentially veterans Simon and Salmi and Dimitri, Pave Bank provides institutional and corporate clients with both traditional programmable banking services while also listing transactions involving digital assets. Programmable banking services allow businesses to automate their financial operations such as payments, transfers, and also treasury management through applications and programmable interferences, those of APIs and smart contracts built on digital infrastructures. Pave Bank is headquarters in Singapore with a Georgian banking license and a London office. The startup has plans to expand into the UAE, Hong Kong, and the European economic areas. No plans so far for the United States. Major financial institutions essentially continue to back blockchain-based payments and settlement platforms as regulatory clarity improves key markets such as the US and Europe. And in September, blockchain payments company Finality also essentially secured $136 million in a Series C funding round, also led by Bank of America, Citi, Tesmax, KBC Group, WisdomTree, and TradeWeb. This is essentially, Tether's way of pushing itself into the banking sector even further. It wasn't able to do so inside the American banking sector, the same way Ripple is achieving that target, but Tether is trying to achieve it outside the United States. Now, on the topic of Ripple gains as Federal Reserve supports distributed ledger technology. Ripple's distributed ledger technology finds renowned momentum in 2025, with the Federal Reserve endorsing now distributed ledger technology. This marks a pivotal moment for XRP, led by Ripple CEO, essentially Brad Garlinghouse. Regulatory support and institutional investments exceeding $1 billion have propelled XRP's market value, outpacing essentially BTC and ETH, reflecting significant confidence in Ripple's financial solutions. Ripple's position has accelerated the following regulatory changes and renowned institutional interest. Now, the Federal Reserve support for distributed ledger technology boosts confidence in Ripple's alignments with traditional finance, contributing to XRP's market dominance and significant asset gains. Ripple's CEO Brad Garlinghouse, known for his championing regulatory frameworks and global essentially solutions, continues to steer the company through these dynamic shifts. While no recent public statements have been made by Brad or Ripple executives were noted, prior advocacy efforts have been essentially paid their dividends. XRP is essential for institutional cross-border payments, said Brad, for example. Institutional investors poured more than $1 billion into XRP this year, reflecting confidence in Ripple's alignments with regulatory trends. And XRP has dramatically essentially outperformed its competitors. Ripple's technologies essentially are increasingly integral to institutional payments, influenced by Federal Reserve essentially acknowledgements of DLT's potential and the broader cryptocurrency markets, however. Previous XRP rallies, driven by regulatory catalysts, suggest similar momentums under the current climate. We are going into regulations, essentially, as we are in, essentially, as I said, in this government shutdown situation, we are still having conversations about crypto regulations. The House, the Senate, the Democrats, the Republicans, they're all discussing still crypto regulations, specifically the Clarity Act. Once that passes through, honestly, we're going to be seeing who the real winner is inside the crypto sector, because then we're talking about utility, not just what you may or can provide essentially to the table. Then it's about utility. And then we're going to see who the real winner is. Also, on the idea of are institutions actually interested in XRP and so on, XRP signals essentially rebound as XRPR ETF reaches $100 million. In this particular moment of time of a government shutdown situation, XRP's market focus strengthens as classical chart patterns suggest a price rebound conceded with XRPR ETF reaching $100 million. Asset milestone in October 2025. XRPR ETF growth to $100 million highlights significant institutional interest, signaling potential liquidity influx and positive market sentiments for XRP amidst the regulatory clarity. XRP is gaining market attention due to the potential price comebacks, and the XRPR ETF has achieved a milestone of $100 million in assets, marking a monumental significant essential moment for XRP institutional adoption. Key figures in Ripple and crypto communities also have praised this moment in time. Institutional inflows into XRP essentially ETFs are seen as a sign of trust in XRP's future performance. These financial movements highlight the confidence investors have in XRP's potential for the future in the institutional sector. Financially, the market impact suggests an increase in institutional allocations. This is accompanied by a notable rise in XRP market capitalization, now standing at $176 billion, with essential price nearings of $2.87 amidst the anticipation of the breakouts. XRP's essentially recent milestones may trigger shifts within the cryptocurrency sector landscape, and stakeholders are closely essentially watching the ETF-driven market trends right now, as historical patterns do indicate potential for significant essentially gains if technical forecasts materialize. And potential outcomes do include essentially increased regulatory clarity for the crypto space following the SEC approvals, which could further boost institutional interest and bring utility into the sector. Historical trends do also suggest that such as XRP's past rally patterns add a layer of optimism for these analyzing current essentially technical data that's coming through. And David Shaw, CTO of Ripple Labs, also noted, we continue to witness strong institutional interest in XRP, which is reflected in our ongoing discussions about the regulatory clarity and XRP's utility in cross-border payments. So, in times like this, when the market was all over the place, and a government shutdown, a China tariff situation that's going on, a Ukraine war situation that's going on, the Clarity Act is still being discussed, which is brilliant. The Fed is discussing the idea of opening the doors to private companies for a Fed master account, which is technically just Ripple. And Ripple, essentially XRP, reaching $100 million is a new milestone for their ETFs so far. And this is all during a government shutdown. If you were or have in some sort of way lost some sort of confidence or getting tired that we're still not moving along, we are. And you're going to be ripping in the profits as we go along. Again, there's no financial advice in any sort of a way. It's just what's happening in the financial sector so far. That's all I'm sharing. One, discussions are still being made regarding the Clarity Act during a government shutdown. Two, the Fed is about to be squeezing that door open to Fed master accounts to private company. Technically, the only company that applied is Ripple, that's private. And three, XRP just reached a new milestone in terms of their ETFs, $100 million during a government shutdown. On that note, we have reached the endings of tonight's live also. This was the CMF Live. This was episode 393 of the CMF Live. Episode 394 will be tomorrow. The CMF stands for Crypto Mouse Family. My name is Miles. You can tune to this live Monday to Friday, 10 p.m. London time onwards for the most recent news regarding cryptocurrencies, CBDCs, AI, politics, and regulations. All the vital information you should know about regarding the world completely transforming into a digital sector. And the disclaimer of this live, as always, is not financial advice, not political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. And on tonight's live, we discussed the news of essentially XRP ETFs reaching $100 million. We also talked about essentially Ripple essentially getting that DLT essentially from the Fed, you could pretty much say. We talked about essentially Pave Bank on tonight's live raising money. We talked about Google's claims of quantum computing. We also went through news of how Turkey is right now dominating in terms of the amount of money they're bringing to the table, liquidity for the crypto space. We talked about Tucker Carlson's claims that Bitcoin might be, again, from the CIA. We talked about Coinbase launching some sort of an account so AI could transact in society. We also went through news regarding the CPI data regarding the US job claims. We also talked about tonight's live regarding Trump possibly now again meeting Xi Jinping in South Korea. And we went through news on tonight's live regarding Fidelity launching a Solana essentially account. And also we talked about tonight's live regarding gold and the crypto space and the S&P 500 and the stock market and the US national debt also. Those are all the news topics we discussed on tonight's live. Tune in tomorrow for episode 394. Before we do go, obviously, let's go start the comment section first, and then we will call it a night. Let's see what's happening inside the comment section. We were here. Hello, Miles. CMF family. Scott, good to see you, brother. How you doing? Hello, CMF Miles. How's it doing today? Sorry to be late. I had a professional development after school and personal finance. No problem, Scott. Good to see you. How you doing, brother? Will Google's pay system ever rival Ripple's? No. You can never rival it. Share the live. Let's go, Scott. Share the live. Hit the like button. Facts. Let's go, Scott. Hi, Miles. CMF. Golden Dragon. Good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Night, Miles. CMF. Pablo. See you tomorrow. Same time as usual. Thanks, Miles. See you tomorrorow. Comatose. See you tomorrow. Same time as usual. Good night, Miles and all CMF. Thank you for a great live and news. Let's go, JP. See you tomorrow. Same time as usual. Thanks, CMF and Miles. Harry, let's go. See you tomorrow. Same time as usual as well. Great live, Miles, as usual. Good night, Miles and CMF. Jason, see you tomorrow. Same time as usual as well. Congratulations on program 395, Miles. Let's go, Scott. See you tomorrow, same time as usual. Thank you, Miles and CMF. Great live. See you tomorrow, Mike. See you tomorrow, brother. Same time as usual. Good night, Miles, and good night, CMF. Thank you, brother. See you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Take care, Miles and CMF. Let's go. See you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Ray, night, Miles and CMF. See you tomorrow. Let's go, Joe. See you tomorrow, same time as usual. Mike, Davey, Scott. See you tomorrow, same time as usual. Hi, Miles. Hope you are fine. Sorry, I'm late. Hope you received my donation. I sent you before the end of the live show yesterday. Carl, I did. Thank you so much for that donation. Absolutely amazing. Thank you so much, Carl. Good night, Miles and CMF. Great news. See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow, same time as usual. Do you think I can grow gold in my garage lab? Kidding. Do you think you can grow gold? No, you know, anything's possible in today's world. Thank you, Miles. Have a lovely night. Oh, Linus, good to see you. See you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Night, Miles and family. Susie, see you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Good night, my friend, and see you hopefully tomorrow. Carl, see you tomorrow, same time as usual. Thank you for that donation as well. I got 25 minutes live, better than nothing. I will watch the entire program later. Let's go, Scott. Thank you, Miles, and good night, everyone. Stormy, see you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Thank you so much to everybody from the CMF who tunes in every single night, or essentially replays the videos when you can, and likes and retweets. Honestly, thank you so much to everybody who has already smashed the like button and the retweet button. If you haven't seen CMF members, drop a like, drop a retweet if you're watching this on X, and also smash the like buttons on YouTube if you're watching this on YouTube. And thank you so much to everybody who followed me during this live or subscribed to me during this live. And welcome to CMF. Thanks, Miles. Shelly, see you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Susie, see you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. I'll see everybody tomorrow, same time as usual. Everybody have a great day or a good night, depending on where you're around the world. Episode 394 will be tomorrow. See everybody tomorrow, same time as usual. Also, regarding the hours changing, so we're going to go 1 hour back, if I'm not mistaken. The live show, the CMF live show, is always going to be 10 p.m. London, essentially 10 p.m. UK time onwards. So if we go an hour back or an hour forward, it's always going to be 10 p.m. UK time onwards. So if I go an hour back, it's still going to be 10 p.m. UK time onwards. Just making that sure for everyone. You can make diamonds in a lab, gold next, pretty much. That's facts. You can make diamonds in a lab. So yeah, we're going to go an hour back essentially. And when we do that, the live show is still going to be 10 p.m. UK time. Hour back, hour forward, doesn't matter. It's still 10 p.m. UK time. See everybody tomorrow, same time as usual. Everybody have a great day or a good night, depending on where you are around the world. Like, comment, share, follow, retweet if you already haven't. If you have, thank you so much.